everyone. I am Meghaa Gupta,
And I'm Alexia Casale.
and both of us are the co-founders of Literature Across Borders, which is possibly the only international literary exchange program devoted to young people's literature anywhere in the world. And we are situated at the School of Writing, Publishing and Humanities at Bath Spa University. So, Lexi, would you like to take us through what Literature Across Borders is about? But wait a minute. Before that, a little bit about the both of us. Lexi, do you want to go first and tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Lovely. So I'm Dr Alexia Casale. I'm a reader and writer for young people at Bath Spa University, and I run the MA in writing for young people, and I do lots of research and fun activities around that, especially literature across borders, which is a real passion project. It's something I think is so important in the world, and I'm so delighted to be the home base for this wonderful work that we're trying to do together. I'm also an author of middle grade, young adult, and adult novels, so I try and bring that passion into the work from being on both sides of the table. And Megha, did you want to do an introduction about your wonderful background?
So, I've been working in Indian children's publishing in English for nearly 15 years now. And during this time, I've been an editor, I've handled subsidiary rights, I've reviewed books, I have commissioned reviews of books. In 2021, I co founded India's first screen literature program, and specifically its young people's program. And I ran it till 2023. And apart from that, I'm currently also curating a program on nature writing for children at Azim Premji University in India. When I'm not doing all of those things with the universities, I'm also a writer. I am very interested in books on environment and history, and that's what I have written a lot on. I have a series on history of independent India for middle grade readers with Penguin Random House. And yes, it's so lovely to be a part of Literature Across Borders, and with the wonderful Alexia. And I think, Alexia, on that note, it'll be nice if you could take us through what Literature Across Borders is essentially about.
So, the project is primarily about the fact that, unfortunately, books for children and young people and conversations about those books very rarely travel across borders. And it's such a pity, it impoverishes our world. Books are one of the primary ways that we develop empathy. The research is really clear. If you want to help people understand themselves and the world around them, books are the way forwards. There's been lots of work on the concept of books providing mirrors that we can see ourselves reflected in, but also ways to step into somebody else's shoes and have a vicarious experience of another life. If that stops at borders, how is the world ever going to have cohesion? How are we going to understand each other, appreciate each other, learn from each other? So this is about recognizing the vital role that children's books and books for young adults play in developing our empathy. We don't want to develop empathy when we hit adulthood. We want to be developing it all the way along. And books are the best vehicle we currently have for doing that. So we think they should travel across borders. We are not going to solve the climate crisis by stopping at our borders. That has to be a global thing. And we are not going to get people really to feel human rights are a principle I hold in my heart, and I'm going to act on those principles without empathy and therefore without books. And that has to start with children's books. And that doesn't mean that we think books should be preaching dictatorial. We're not saying that at all. We're saying that simply by reading books set in different places, written by people from different backgrounds, that we gain empathy, and that alone is enough to move us forward. So what we do is each year we have the delightful task of picking 4 thematic pairs of books. So one initially published in India and one initially published in the UK. And the themes are really quite wide ranging. So we were discussing some of these before we did this video. And one year we had a theme on wild and domesticated cats. Any other cat ladies out there that may be very happy? And then last year we had a lovely pairing that I sort of felt very much was close to my heart, which was about siblings, one of whom has a disability, going on an adventure together, but there are all sorts of things. And they all have an underlying human rights theme, but there's no moral lesson. It is just a wonderful tale that we pick from different places, published in different contexts, and then we share those together. And we'll explain how that works in a little bit more detail. But students from 2 different countries are then exchanging these books, discussing them, what's same, what's different, and we will tell you how that moves forwards. But just to sort of explain who these people are who's going to be discussing these books, I'll pass back to Meghaa now.
So, Literature Across Borders is situated at Bath Spa University, and as I've said earlier, we work very closely with the Masters in Writing for Young People students at the university. Now, unfortunately, in India, we really don't have master's programs in writing for young people. So we look at corresponding programs that have an interest, a vested sort of interest in children's books. So we look at students who are pursuing English literature programs and are specifically interested in books for young people. We're also looking at students pursuing childhood education who have modules on using children's books as a way to literacy. And we tell them about our pairs, and then the students pick the pair they want to sort of delve deeper into in the course of their reading. And yes, that's how we put out the word to the students. They pick the pairs, they begin the reading. And Lexi, do you want to tell us a little bit about what happens next?
Yes, so hopefully the books all land in November with our students and they get reading once we know who our volunteers for the years are. And then in about March, we start a series of dialogues. So this is the students who are reading the UK and the Indian book in a pairing get together online to have a chat about it, and then we record that and release it on our website, which we'll talk a bit more about later. But the point of that is it's not just about only exchanging the books, it's also about having a discussion. It's about making the conversation, not just the books, travel across borders. So our students talk about what's the same, what's different, what do you think the publishing context has contributed to shaping this book, what do you think the socio-political context has contributed, what surprised you, what felt very familiar, what versus what felt less familiar, what can we draw out as writers from these books, and all sorts of lovely things around that. And after our first year, we had alumni from the programme from Literature Across Borders who were able to come back and moderate these panels. So it's not just Meghaa and I chairing, it's the people who were on Literature Across Borders then lead the student dialogues moving forwards. And some of them are already off into amazing careers in publishing, which is absolutely lovely to see. And hopefully this is a little part of their journey on the way, getting a chance to work across borders and see a really wonderful range of literature. And if you want to sort of get an even better understanding, you can go and watch the dialogues on our website. It's all freely available, and you can also see clips on our Instagram account. So I hope you'll go and have a little look at that and enjoy it. And there's not just dialogues, there's other content which Megha's going to tell you about now.
Yes, so apart from the dialogues between students, we have also sort of started bringing together the authors of some of these books to sit together and talk about their writing process and how it feels to be writing a book within the different publishing markets in which they are doing their writing, which is always very interesting. And again, like Lexi said, you can view these videos for free on our Literature Across Borders page. You'll find the details on our LinkedIn page as well, and also on our social media. Apart from dialogues with the authors, we're also looking at dialogues with various stakeholders in these different publishing markets. So in 2024, we had a dialogue with librarians from the UK and from the US and from India who spoke about how young people are picking up books to read in their different markets. What are the sort of interests they hold when it comes to books? Apart from that, this year, we had a conference on disability and how it's featured in young people's literature. And again, for that, we had speakers from Norway, from India, from the UK, from the US, and we had people talking about how disability is represented in children's books, what are some of the ways in which it has evolved. And it was all quite enlightening, and also truly cross-cultural perspectives that one doesn't usually get, when you're sort of working on such subjects in isolation. In addition to dialogues, very happy to say that this year we expanded literature across borders into schools, school children for whom these books were possibly originally written. And it was very interesting. We had schools from India, we had schools from the UK, and we had schools from the US, children from them taking part in reading these books. It's again the same 4 pairs, out of which the librarians at these schools, they pick out 2 that will be most suitable. I mean, they reach a consensus on 2 pairs that would be most suitable for their students. And the students read those books and they engage in dialogues with their librarians in their schools. And then they come together, much like in the university program. The students come together for a sit down where they talk about what they made of these books and what they felt about these books that were, similar in theme, but written by people from very different cultural contexts. And we're happy to say that we're getting into the second year of the schools program in 2026, and we can't wait to see the directions it goes into. Very excited because it's the first time that we have a book from the US that we've included in our sort of thematic sets of books. In fact, we had pairs, and this is the first year we have a set of books. We have a book from the US that is part of the discussion, both at the university level and at the schools level. And both Lexi and I am sure very, very interested in knowing what the students make of books. And it's also a way of sort of growing and expanding our view of how themes are sort of discussed globally. On that note, Lexi, I think it's a great sort of segue into you telling us a little bit more about, how are we trying to make a difference with literature across borders, and why is such a program? I mean, you've already sort of touched upon it a bit earlier, but we've completed 3 years of literature across borders, and this is our 4th year. So maybe a little bit about what we've sort of the long way we've come and where we see ourselves going with this.
Yes, it's been a roller coaster ride, a lot of learning and a lot of development. But as Meghaa says, it's so exciting that we're finally speaking directly to the audience for these books, hearing from children and helping them talk to each other across borders, because the conversation is not meant to just be for and about adults. And for our students, they get to hear from the people that they are trying to write for. And for kids, they get to be enriched not just by reading the books, which are aimed primarily at them, but discussing across borders and finding out more. This is what school is like here. This is what it's like here. Oh, I understand the book better now because I know that this is how you go about your day. And our academic year runs in different months for different reasons. And there's some lovely things that children are discovering, both about the books and through the books, being able to have a conversation that, as we said earlier, opens up empathy and understanding in a whole different way. So walking vicariously in the shoes of the characters and then actually hearing from children in different contexts has, I think, really started a development of understanding and appreciation that is so much deeper and richer than if we only did the books instead of did the books and the conversation. So Meghaa put it perfectly earlier when she said there's just really not much exchange that happens between the East and West on books, especially books for children and young people. When books do travel, they tend to travel in one way only. Quite a lot of books come from the UK to India and not very many come back. And as a reader and as a writer, that that is just so tragic to me. I want to learn. I want to see those stories. I want to find out what writers everywhere are doing with their craft and what readers everywhere get to experience. So in this year of the project, we've been trying to explore ways to make the books we've chosen even more easily available to our students. So some of these books, you can get a hard copy across, but it's very expensive. And some of the students on my program at Bar Spa University are actually not just in the UK, they're studying in the UK, but we have a set of students who are in person and a set of students who are online. And our onliners are some of them in the UK, and we have a range of needs in our groups, from disability to caring responsibilities to people juggling very busy work lives around their studies, but also people who are living in different places. So trying to make the books more readily available in online formats has been quite a challenge, because they just aren't published in multiple ways in different places. So we've been using this as a way to open up discussions with publishers and saying, could we get a sort of educational license to at least make this book available very readily to a broader number of people? And publishers have been very receptive to that conversation. But it's really interesting for us to see how there are very few models for that. Things are either published, and not very many of them, or there really isn't any way to help these books travel, except that we're going to start that and going to push that forwards. And for 3 years, we've had enough of a conversation going to really have people starting to listen and say, yes, books should travel and conversations should travel. We have all this wonderful video conferencing technology. Let's make the most of it and do all this work that could be incredibly difficult and expensive, but actually doesn't have to be. And let's make a start. So I think a lot of what Meghaa and I have been doing is making a start, starting the conversation going, and look at how it has grown to so many different countries and continents now. And I'm really excited to see that expand, because at the moment there just isn't enough. So if you're out there and you're interested, during the conversation, watch the videos. We sometimes have tickets available, they're all free, to come to events with our authors or librarians or things. So come along, join in there, listen along, read some of the books, let us know what you think of things. And we are always happy to talk to more people, because that's the whole point of it. So on that note, I'm going to pass back to Meghaa to close this little video. And thank you for joining us today.
Yes, I think a big thank you to everyone who joined in. And really, when we live our lives in the day to day, sometimes we don't really get a sense of, we must have heard of it, about the world being a very large and exciting place full of little wonders that lie unexplored. But actually, through literature across borders, I've really got a sense of it, of just how big and exciting and wonderful the world can be. And just the richness of ideas of literary thought, especially for the youngest readers, because for publishing as a trade, it'll go nowhere if children stop reading. And it's just surprising that not enough is being done for children's literature. Well, we've now got a booker for children's books, but there's a lot that remains to be done. And it has been such a delight that we've been, through this little program, been able to sort of slowly build on getting children's books to readers across the planet, mull over what can become better, what holds promise, and really just bring a diversity of voices to the forefront that might otherwise be sort of hidden in some part of the world. So I think that it's a wonderful way for anyone to just expand the dimensions of their thinking, and just actually witness how much really lies there. And we hope that in the coming years we can keep growing this program in sustainable ways to see where we can go with it. And of course, any support, word of encouragement, interest in joining the program is very, very welcome. You can go and get all of the details, as Lexi said, on our website. And yes, you can also DM us on social media if there's something specific. Please do reach out to us if you have any questions. And that's it for Literature Across Borders. For an introduction to Literature Across Borders, we will be plying you with more details in the coming weeks and months. Bye.